Hey everybody, I'm Jack. This is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. It's another beautiful day here in South Alabama, although this weather is just so bizarre. I mean, we were having a very cold winter here. In fact, we were having some record cool, and then all of a sudden, boom, winter turned off overnight. And this isn't just like a little few day thing. Like, we are like high 70s, 80 every day. We have been for the past 3 or 4 days, and we're going to be for like 10 days in a row. So yeah, our winter is pretty much over, but might as well take advantage. I think when I get through doing this video, I'm gonna go take a little break and go sit outside with my shirt off for a little bit and get some vitamin D. Anyhow, I want to talk about too much fat on a raw food diet today. I do videos every day, so if you haven't already done it, please hit that subscribe button now. Then click on that little bell and check send notifications so you'll stay subscribed to the channel. Fat, fat, fat. That is just one of the main big subjects in the raw food world, the raw food diet. And I think that's really probably one of the biggest downfalls to most people doing this lifestyle. And it's kind of, the choices people make, I find kind of unfortunate in a way, in a lot of circumstances. Now, before I even really get started into this, I'm not going to throw the fully raw under the bus. If you can do fully raw and you can keep your fat levels low, I think that's an incredibly healthy lifestyle. Regardless of the people, like, you know, I did a few searches, as I always do, watched a few snippets of videos, read a couple of things from a Google search that came up. And most of the things out there are that, like I say, once again, throwing the raw food thing under the bus, or the people that ate too much fat. And now all of a sudden they have all this anger. Well, the raw food diet is dangerous. A raw food diet did this to me. A raw food diet is that. I gained weight on a raw food diet. The raw food diet is this. The demonization of the diet when so many of them had the wrong mindset in it. It was all or nothing, black or white, has to be fully raw. And what they did, and what I see a lot of people doing that aren't having the kind of success they would like to get from this lifestyle, is they're just eating so much fat. And I think a lot of times people are sacrificing. It's so much in pursuit of that holy grail, being fully raw, that people don't care about that. They're like, they put raw ahead of health, and they'll be like, okay, well, and I think they block that out of their head, and they don't want to acknowledge that they're eating so much fat so they can stay fully raw, because they're not really ready. Their body's not really ready. Maybe their body will never be ready to be fully raw, but for some reason their body's not ready right now, and the only way that they can deal with that and technically keep that label of being fully raw is to eat all that fat. I saw so many rationalizations. I saw one YouTuber, they're not a huge YouTuber, but I've been aware of them pretty much since I started this channel. Very nice person. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't get into that kind of stuff. That does nothing. But I've watched this person, and they've basically, for years, and they have a decent following, they rationalize every problem, twist, and turn in the road. And I've checked out a few people that have just defaulted, and all of a sudden they couldn't hold on anymore. They were trying to run with the big dogs that never eat fat, and they just overcorrected the other way. They got into this, you know, now they're in this comfort zone, and you can tell, listen, I'm not trying to be all about aesthetics or whatever, but you can tell by their face, by their body composition, they're eating too much fat. They like a few people I watched that I used to watch that have now seen the light and eat so much fat, and I feel so much happier and more content with this. Well, they're kind of numbing. It's just like, yeah, you can take Valium every day and you'll have a nice warm fuzzy feeling, but I'm not recommending taking Valium every day. But yeah, they go overboard, they overcorrect, and that's what I think is the problem on the raw food diet with people. Is extremes in either version, because extremes lead to overcorrection, and all the people that won't, well, there's so many problems I see in this, and this is just me kind of having conversations out loud, working it out in my head. However you choose to eat is your choice. And, you know, if you're doing it plant-based, I got nothing but love for you, because, you know, you're not harming any animals, not harming the environment. It's all good. But I think people are just making so many rationalizations out there, and they're not just like analyzing and thinking clearly. Now, first of all, I'm not Mr. Science. You guys know that. I don't have to delve into a lot of science. This is the laboratory. I know I'm just repeating that over and over. This is the laboratory. I get the results. I get the results straight to me. And I mean, there's no arguing with the results. I might not be able to eloquently sit here and explain to you the science and the chemistry of why, you know, high fat is not optimal, and definitely why, and here's a real big mistake that a lot of raw food people are making, is they're eating a lot of fruit. It's bad enough when people aren't high fruit eaters, don't eat as high carb, and they eat so much fat, but when you got people eating all this fruit and mixing it with a ton of fat, you're getting blood sugar issues from hell, because it's that fat that's keeping the sugar in your bloodstream. Otherwise, you know, if we're having all this sugar, too much sugar, aren't you eating too much sugar, Jack? That we're eating, when we're keeping our fat at a reasonable level, at a very low level, sometimes in my case, that sugar is not staying in your blood. It's being dispersed rather quickly to all the cells in your body. But when you have a lot of fat in your bloodstream, that traps that sugar in there. So then you have blood sugar issues. When you're eating so much high fat, like these high fat meals, the restriction of blood flow. Everybody thinks, you know, but it's healthy fat, but it's healthy fat. I hear that a lot from people when they know I'm vegan, they know I eat mostly raw, and then when I start talking about low fat, they're like, well, wait, you're vegan, it's good fat. Yeah, but you know, too much of anything is not necessarily good. I'm not going to go search it, but if you search John Cole's channel, is it John Cole or John Kohler? I always forget. I'm good with first names, but anyhow, there's a guy on there that had a stroke, that had been a long-term raw vegan, and that's where you get into, you know, the omega-6s versus the omega-3s. And especially when I'm talking high fat, most of these people, they're not even getting any omega-3s in there. It's just all avocado, coconut, nuts, and seeds. And it just doesn't work. It's just not going to work for people. So listen, go for your health first. You know, put your health above everything else. I would always, always, always encourage you to, if you have to eat some cooked food, to prevent yourself from eating higher fat, eat the cooked food. I'm sorry, I will put my money on any of the cooked food, vegan, health-wise, over high-fat eating raw foodish. And, you know, I know the holy temperature has been broken, but that's not everything. That 118 degrees isn't the end-all, be-all on everything. There's just too much. There's not enough, because there's not enough background to draw on, but there's not enough research on this lifestyle in general. Definitely not enough research on the raw food diet, but there is plenty research out there about what fat does to the body, and especially when we are mixing that with fruit. But this talk is also not intended to scare you away from fat. Like I say, I walk that middle way. I get just as frustrated with the people out there that are advocating just uber. They're fanatic about no fat, about low fat. And I think that one frustrates me, because even though some of the people talking about it are somehow able to do that, most people aren't. And long term, I don't think that's healthy either, to just go like the ones that are afraid of an avocado. Listen, everything in life, I think, is balance. I think, to me, one of the most important things I've learned in life, and one thing I'm always striving for in all areas of life, not just health, but in everything, is balance. When we're too much in one way, things are going to suffer. Things just cannot work properly if we are out of balance. And there is a balance. There's a good balance in there. There's a balance of healthy fat. No, I'm sorry, and do not give me that load of horse whatever. about, but there's fat in everything. I know there is, before somebody comes at me, little science geek, with the technical stuff. Yes, there's fat, but I'm not going to be dependent on my fat from oranges. I'm not going to be dependent on my fat from bananas. So yes, I'm talking about overt fats, and it's nothing wrong. And I believe, I think we need some good overt fats in our diet. But let's keep it in a reasonable range, and we don't even have to nitpick here. I'm leaving a pretty wide range here. Now, overall, I try to keep it around 10%, but I'm not even categorizing high fat as 15%. You know, there's a lot of people that do okay on 15, 20%. I actually spent some time with a very, very knowledgeable raw vegan, somebody that had been raw for about 20 years, vegan for 28 or 29 years, who had some good, and it was a female, had some very good points and some good science and some good explanations on why they ate a little bit higher fat and why it worked at their age and their hormone level and this and that and the other, all above my head. But there's balance in there. If you're having a problem with one thing, look to different areas. There's a reason you're doing that. And a lot of reason people start craving all that fat is they're not eating enough food. When we don't eat enough food, I even get like that sometimes. If I go away for the weekend and I miss 4 or 5 or 6 hours, and since I am a little bit looser with myself and I will eat out a little bit, I start tending to, I kind of get a little feeling, let's get something fat in there. One last little thing I'll end up here is, if you're having a problem with the fat, if it's like you really think, oh my God, I'm having a problem dropping the percentage of fat I have, there's little tricks and play arounds that. Like a lot of times for me, I know with evening meals, most of the time that's when, like 99.9% of the time when I eat fat, it's with my evening meal. Other than, you know, a chia seeds or hemp seeds or something with a smoothie, but the main fat will always be at dinner. Now I hear people all the time, well, I crave the fat, I just had to have some fat. For me, it's more like of a consistency, a texture, a taste. Like I might make some soup this evening and I'm thinking, oh, am I going to add any fat or not? And I'm like, well, you know, I might use some spinach, I might use a few tricks here and there. If I can make it creamier, heartier, creamier, even however I can make it creamy without adding fat, is a substitute for me for fat. I'm all about consistency and textures. But listen, to end this one up, I probably could have just done this one in about 30 seconds, just said eat like this, is just seek balance. Whether you, listen, and when I use those ratios, I'm not necessarily promoting that book the way it's done, 80-10-10, but I keep going back to, I like that ratio. I like that ratio, and I like to live pretty close to that ratio. Just listen, first and foremost, keep your ratios about that. If you have to add some cooked food in to keep those ratios, I'd rather see you eating 80-10-10 with some cooked food than see you eating, I don't know, say 20% of fat or 25% of fat, but keeping it all raw. But anyhow, it's just all about balance. But don't scarf the fat down. Don't, you know, and don't rationalize to yourself. Listen to your body. You know. If you're not, you're lying to yourself. Because even when I make poorer choices, and I ate some tahini this weekend, that I ate tahini and I ate some vegan macaroni and cheese, and I could just feel that pull down. I could feel that pull down. That would never be a regular thing for me. But I know, I'm not fooling myself. I don't try to fool myself. I don't then tell somebody, well, oh yeah, but it was because, no, it was the fat. The fat just dropped me like a sack of potatoes. So listen to your body. One last little thing that just popped in my head. Avocados and bananas. Every once in a while, I even cringe at that. My body would just repel that straight up, like that fatty fruit. Although I think of avocado as not a fruit, but it is. That and the sweet, oh my God. So listen to your bodies a little bit more. Listen to your bodies, get in tune with your body, but don't eat too much fat on this lifestyle. That's what the great killer is, and that's what will probably eventually knock you off of being raw vegan, and you'll be on to the next thing. So eat a moderate amount of healthy fat, and you're all good. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.